Hi there, you're listening to Unnatural Selection, the show about newsy type stuff and things. My name is George.
My name is Tom.
And my name is Adam.
And with our powers combined, we are the undiluted full strength of Unnatural Selection. Make sure you visit us at our salubrious home on the web, unnaturalshow.com. It's a podcast about the news that, when all else fails, occasionally drifts into humour as a last resort.
A last resort?
Yeah. The refuge
if
of the
anything,
damned.
it's accidental.
Accidental, yes. Or occidental. I don't know what that word means. It's a podcast.
It's a Monday night as well, so you can tell that we're all just
The
really
vibe
enthused.
is just high energy, high octane podcast.
George has just spent 2 hours making dinner and putting his kid to bed.
Yeah.
He's really ready to go. Tom's still recovering from a drive back from interstate. And I am dealing with a cold sore that will not die. Here we go. Let's talk about
that has its own postcode, from what I can see. So
yeah, you can see it from space. It's epic.
Occidental means Western,
okay, there you go.
as in like the West, as in.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned the West and the Western Hemisphere, Tom, because that is actually the subject of today's podcast, which sounds like it was an immaculately crafted segue, but was in fact completely accidental. So there's been a lot of talk in the news this week about, is Pete Hegseth...
Sorry, I had to get there for the... You made the accidental, but the...
Yeah, and the delay on that just made it absolutely just ripper.
Even better.
Incredible timing on that. So you really nailed it. So... Jesus Christ.
I broke Adam.
You've broken Adam.
Yeah. And
he's so unimpressed.
Yeah.
Look at his face.
Just the worst.
Right.
So unimpressed. Anyway, Pete Hegseth.
Pete Hegseth. A lot of people asking, is Pete Hegseth a war criminal? Other people saying more like Pete Hegseth. Is going to The Hague for war crimes. So we asked the question.
Do a boom ching.
Please don't. I beg you not to use the soundboard. I'm literally begging you. Since the middle of September, the US has been engaged in a series of illegal, unregulated drone strikes on. We don't really know. They claim that they are Venezuelan drug mules bringing cocaine, presumably, into the country, and the US, rather than responding with the force of law or prosecuting any of these individuals or capturing them and confirming who they are and what it is, in fact, that they are bringing, has decided to go ahead and murder them. Forcing many observers to ask, is Pete Hegseth a war criminal? To which the answer, to my mind, is, in this man's opinion, yes. If you if you murder people with no legal justification, either you're a serial killer or you're a war criminal. The menu is not great. Like, you're either a Jeffrey Dahmer and you're fucking the heads, or you're a war criminal and you should also be in jail. Like, I don't know what the distinction is.
And you might think, because there's been a lot of talk this week, and we'll get into it, about, this one particular strike, which was the first one.
Yeah, which is funny.
You might think, maybe it's just a one-off. Like, who doesn't order a drone strike accidentally?
Let he who has not accidentally ordered 22 unauthorized illegal drone strikes cast the first stone, Adam.
I mean, this is coming from a country that literally, droned people, all the time in the US, not the US, in the Middle East.
Well, in Yemen, they love droning people, but at least in Yemen and other Middle Eastern countries, there was at least a pretext of an armed conflict.
Iraq.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. America loves a drone. If there's one thing that America loves more than hating brown people, it's droning brown people. So it's certainly become somewhat of a national pastime since the Obama administration, given that's when the technology fully developed. But at least the Obama administration, again, had the pretext of extending the authorized use of force that they developed during, I think it was the Iraq War. And, there was at least a pretext there of fighting terrorism, even if it did result in a number of military age males, being any males over the age of 14, being counted as enemy combatants, and a whole bunch of collateral damage and people wantonly killed for no particularly good reason. At least it was under the auspices. No, you're right. The longer I keep talking about it, that's also bad. But like,
I was gonna say Obama did it the right way.
He killed
did the war crime the right.
He killed those small brown children in the correct legal way. Yeah, no, you're right. The longer I keep talking, the less good it sounds.
It's bad. It's bad. Yeah. But my point is that they've been doing this whole like.
But Tom,
nuke from orbit,
as forever. Probably illegal as that was, this, if you will believe it, is even more illegal.
Because there's a pretext. It's just particularly weak in this case. Now, what I was going to get to though was that there has been 22 known strikes in September. And
that's what I said.
People have been killed.
Yeah.
Did you say that? Okay.
Yeah, 22. Yeah. So, and for some of those strikes, it's emerged that there were like up to, a dozen people on the boat, which begs the question, like, was this, were these all drug runners, or were they potentially, people being human trafficked or smuggled, completely innocent people that have also been murdered by the administration? This is the thing when you just drop a JDAM on a fishing boat, is you don't really get much physical evidence left after the fact to be able to properly ascertain who and what it was that we just bombed to fucking smithereens. So it's not good, but the reason this has emerged in the news is that there was a story, I believe it was from the Washington Post, where they described the first of these strikes in September, which the initial strike was launched. It hit the boat. The boat was on fire. There were apparently people, no, we don't know if they were civilians. There were people who were still alive after that initial strike. And Pete Hegseth's order of kill them all, or kill everybody, is the quote. You're never the good guy when you say, kill them all. It's never the good guy in any story in a movie. But so the second strike was ordered, thus killing the remaining people. And the reason that, as ludicrous as it is to say like, well, the first one's definitely a war crime, but the second one's a really big war crime, is because there's specific legislation and specific policy within the Defense Department that says you don't have the authority to kill someone who is incapable of, returning fire and existing in a combat space, particularly with regard to shipwrecked people, right? Because this is a quote: orders to fire upon the shipwrecked would be clearly illegal. And that's the Pentagon's own manual on the laws of armed conflict. Because if you're shipwrecked, you have no way of participating in the fight. It is the most like textbook. It's literally in the textbook. It is the textbook example of when you should not be, returning for a double tap, right? So
what?
Yeah.
So to be clear, Pete Hegseth wasn't in the room.
Well, he was in the room for the first strike, and then he was like, "I'm a busy guy. I've got a martini with my name on it. See you later, cats." And then left the room, and then basically gave a hospital hand pass to the admiral, and said, Admiral Bradley. He goes, "I absolutely support Admiral Bradley's decision, which he made while I wasn't there." Because he absolutely made the right decision, which he made. It's like, okay, I think I see what you're doing here, Peter. It's not very clever, but I see what you're doing. And
I mean, obviously, the fact is that, and we can talk about it, but the pretext to all this is, which feeds into this decision making, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that on January 20, Trump, just after inauguration, Trump signed a flurry of executive orders. One of those executive orders was it made the criminal organizations and drug cartels to be named foreign terrorist organizations, and this includes Tren de Aragua, which is a Venezuelan street gang.
It's more of a conglomeration it's more like a franchise. Yeah. It's kind of like a video easy,
in February
shop.
Yes. They can run it how they want to. In February 20, Trump formally designated 8 Latin American crime organizations as foreign terrorist organizations. So basically, the pretext here, so what that means is they can treat them like Al-Qaeda. Like what they're doing in Yemen, like what they've done in the Middle East.
Anyone's Al-Qaeda if you bomb them from orbit.
Yeah. So what that means is, based on the principles that they have established through the War on Terror, GWAT, they are allowed to, if someone is designated terrorist or if they're a part of a suspected terrorist organization, they can, basically do it. A de facto, like the rules of war apply basically to that organization. So they can
if I decide,
if they say so, they can.
Which kind of begs the question: how's that allowed? If you could just decide when the rules of war apply and don't apply, doesn't that negate the rules of war to some degree? But yes, go on.
Well, the rules of war, what that means is that the US president can, and the US military can act offensively against any known terrorist organization without having to go through Congress for a declaration of war. This is how they get it, because in the US you've got to have a declaration of war to go to war.
It's supposed to go through Congress. It's meant to be a whole thing. Yeah, and
they get around it by doing all these other sort of legislation.
Has not been a thing since 9/11. They just gave up on that.
No. Yeah, and this is how they've been operating for the last 30 years.
Yeah,
or 20 years. So that's the background. That's why they're doing it like this. But yeah, even with this tenuous link that they've drawn between the boat that may or may not have been part of a drug cartel, they are also breaking their own rules on war, which George has pointed out. On top of that.
As our senior bombing correspondent, Adam, would you say that a boat headed initially from Venezuela and then once they saw the drone headed back to Venezuela poses a credible military threat against a predator drone?
No, as it turns out.
Okay, interesting. No, this is interesting. I'm writing this all down.
But Pete Hegseth might have a different idea.
Yeah, well, Pete Hegseth, when he's between cocktails, decides to make statements to the press, and here is one of those statements saying he didn't stick around a second strike on the boat. He's a busy man. He's got other war crimes to do.
I watched that first strike live. As you can imagine, at the Department of War, we got a lot of things to do. So I didn't stick around for the hour and 2 hours, whatever, where all the sensitive site exploitation digitally occurs. So I moved on to my next meeting. A couple of hours later, I learned that commander had made which he had the complete authority to do. And by the way, Admiral Bradley made the correct decision to ultimately sink the boat and eliminate the threat. He sunk.
Don't you hate it when you got back-to-backs and things just fall through the cracks?
Yeah.
Sunk the boat, and eliminated the threat. And it was the right call. We have his back.
So you didn't see any survivors, to be clear, after that first strike?
I did not personally see survivors, but I stand, because the thing was on fire. It was exploded in fire, smoke, you can't see anything, you got digital. This is called the fog of war.
That's not what the fog of war means. It refers to the chaos that exists when one is on the battlefield, not when one is sitting in an air-conditioned room in the Pentagon.
Second strike, you said it happened more than an hour after the first. Did I hear it correctly?
I couldn't tell you the exact amount of time.
Minutes, or you went off the room, is what you're saying.
I already stated my answer quite clearly.
Yeah, so that's not great.
Just kind of being like, to watch a strike happen and then be like, cool, you guys got this.
Peace?
Yeah, I'm just gonna go.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. He's such a loser.
Yeah, he sucks. He sucks real bad.
What's concerning though is that this, and we've talked about this with I don't know if you guys have talked about it much. We've sort of commented on it in past episodes briefly, but what this is part of, apart from the American quote unquote war on drugs, which is effectively something that Trump's been sort of on after.
And as we learned from the series The Wire in 2001, the war on drugs is perfect and should be continued.
Yeah.
That was the lesson from that early 2000s series.
Yeah, Tom Clancy as well literally wrote a book where this sort of thing exactly happened. But what's concerning is that since August, the US military, not only have they been striking boats, but there's a larger buildup happening on the coast off Venezuela. So they've got a whole naval sort of fleet there. There's guided missile destroyers. They've got an aircraft carrier.
Their largest aircraft carrier, no less. Not situated off the coast of the Chinese mainland, waiting for the Taiwanese attack, which is set to drop like the hottest album of 2027. but it's hanging around Venezuela, just hanging out in the Caribbean.
To the point now where, Trump is saying like, we might do ground attacks too. So you look back and go, well, what's actually happening here?
If we feel like it.
If we feel like it.
Yeah.
The US has a history of overthrowing South American governments, and the most recent one.
Yeah, but Adam, at least they have the courtesy to do it in secret via the CIA.
Well, not even.
Like the Bay of Pigs. Okay, no, you're right.
I'm talking more recent, like Reagan and Clinton, it might have been, or Bush the first. Like Grenada, how you want to pronounce it.
What
was the other one?
They got a real problem with leftists in Latin America. It is a motif in the story of America, is that, the whole idea, the phrase banana republic comes from the idea that Americans, there was some Caribbean island where they were getting their bananas, and then some leftist rose to power there, and they're like, we're going to come in and take over the country to make sure we can still get our bananas. That's why the term banana republic exists, is because America hates leftists in Latin America.
And I don't know if Nicolas Maduro is technically a leftist. He's basically
not defending Maduro. Yeah, he's a piece of shit. But he's nominally, the title on his business card says, populist leftist, right? As to how accurately he embodies those principles in his politics is another matter entirely. He's extremely corrupt.
And it's not the first time they've tried to subtly overthrow him. There was like a PMC. We talked about it like years ago. There was
the private
failed
military
PMC
contractor, tried to do a
coup,
which was like maybe backed by John Bolton. I think he kind of like tacitly, accidentally admitted that on CNN one time.
And that's how they used to do things.
The good old days, men in smoke-filled back rooms. There was there was art to it,
But just like all foreign American policy misadventures, you're like, why are they so interested in Venezuela? And the simple answer is oil. So Venezuela
there have been right-wing commentators on Fox News this week talking about like, here's how fucking good it's going to be for the oil industry. Like in America, we're going to explode all this oil. And I was like, do we learn? These are the same people that were beating the drum for war in Iraq, saying there's oil in them, their hills.
Yeah.
It's the same guys. Like, do they not hear themselves talking and just be like, wait a minute, Sean Hannity, you've said all this before. Maybe this is a bad idea. You just like can't even, the two neurons are just like so close to firing and connecting, and it just can't make the connection.
So historically, American private corporations were very much embedded in Venezuela's oil industry, right? So from the 50s, 40s through to like
as they were in
the 80s,
like British petroleum in Iran before. It's pretty. This is what empire does, right?
But basically, there was a populist government that came to power in Venezuela, and they said, well, we're going to redistribute the wealth.
Nationalize all the industries. And it's literally the same reason that the CIA overthrew Iran back in the day. It's the exact same thing.
So Venezuela did that. Yeah. And it did actually mean by doing so, they also collapsed their oil industry in the process.
Oopsie.
But Maduro, who is a populist leader and is also using this coincidentally to sort of shore up his own support, like, the amount of volunteers that are currently signing up to the Venezuelan military is in the thousands.
Well, nothing like gets everyone in your country to coalesce around you as a nationalist populist leader more than the big bad coming after you, right? Like it's useful for both of them politically, both Maduro and Trump, right?
Yeah. So look, what's the next step for the US? I don't know. I mean, is this just simply around, like, if it was simply around the drugs, there's got to be cheaper ways to do that than what they're currently doing in terms of military deployments.
There's also places where more drugs come from in Latin America, but also China. Like China, the ingredients that are, the precursor elements for fentanyl are manufactured in China, exported to Mexico, and smuggled into the United States. If you have a problem with drug smuggling, A, fentanyl is the biggest issue going around at the moment, and B, there's other countries that are like Venezuela as a percentage of the amount of drugs that makes it into the US is a relatively small provider. And this is in the context of last week, Trump pardoning the president of Honduras, who was charged and convicted by the US justice system under checks notes Donald Trump's first administration for bringing 500 tons of cocaine into the country. But because he's a populist far-right leader and Donald Trump likes him, he gave him a pardon this week. So it's so interesting going, we're going to go to war with Venezuela because of drugs. But meanwhile, this guy here is my buddy. What's 500 tons of cocaine between friends? It's just it's absurd on its face.
And that's just Don Trump Jr.'s order, like, let alone how much more.
Yeah, Donald Trump Jr. is like, Dad, this guy's fucking fantastic. You got to get him out.
Yeah, it's the drug that the rich people are allowed to enjoy.
So as a result of this sort of escalating build-up, and Adam will talk through the timeline. Well, do you want to go through the timeline?
Well, not specifically because it's literally granularly. But all I would say is that the military build-up in off the coast of Venezuela has steadily increased.
It's been building since
to the point where you've got bombers, you've got F-35s based in Puerto Rico, you've got carrier strike group off the coast, and you've got several destroyers and other support elements there as well. So it's almost like a little blockade they're trying to do, and they're closing airspace down as well.
Yeah, so, and you can see with public reporting the amount of planes flying over Venezuela. Well, as a result of Trump's announcement this week, it's all sort of come to a head. It's basically none. So Trump,
they're calling the operation Operation Southern Spear, and there's nearly 12,000 personnel based on a dozen Navy ships in the region, which is the largest deployment to the area in like 50 years.
Yeah. The Southern Spear is my dick. So Trump has said that the airspace above and surrounding Venezuela is to be enclosed in its entirety. So he posted, to all airlines, pilots, drug dealers, and human traffickers, please consider,
and then no one else,
and in all caps, the airspace above and surrounding Venezuela to be closed in its entirety. So
and that's it. That was it. There was
no, not even a thank you for your attention
further
to this
details.
matter, or nothing. Yeah, it was really just
nothing.
Taking a shit, and decided to try and close down the airspace of a country. Now, obviously, Caracas has been saying that it's really not about drugs. Obviously, the Trump administration. The Trump regime is trying to overthrow the Maduro regime. It's all about regime change, and that's really what they're interested in. It's interesting that there has allegedly been communication between Maduro and Trump, with rumors that Maduro might be traveling to Washington to discuss some kind of détente with Trump. One can only hope that he travels by neither boat nor plane. But it's interesting.
What options has he got left? That seems like a long drive.
Well, like Trump has been threatening Maduro directly, saying like, if you leave now, like there won't be charges. Like I think he's trying to affect regime change via the bully pulpit, Trump. So, but like,
come on, leave town.
Yeah, leave town. Come on, I could be really convincing.
It's super cool if you resign.
So the thing is, and what the Trump administration clearly has not calculated, is that launching any kind of ground offensive, which he's threatened to do, saying we'll bomb them from the air and we'll bomb their targets on the sea and maybe land as well, I think was the quote. What they haven't considered is that if you thought Afghanistan and Iraq were difficult terrains of conflict, boy, have you never read fucking anything about Venezuela, which is mountainous and jungle and absolutely not the fucking place where you want to have US troops on the ground. You will not win a conflict in Venezuela because, like many conflicts in Venezuela, the combatants will simply disappear into the hectares of jungle which exist in the mountains of the country. So what exactly is the game plan here? Like, what are we thinking, Donnie? You're just gonna tweet the guy into resigning? Like, what's the game plan, Donald?
Oh no, the Americans have fought an entrenched populace in a jungled area before, and it went amazingly. What are you talking about?
You're talking about Vietnam. Last I checked, we were winning. So
yeah,
the only thing is, I think it's a quote from what's the guy who does Behind the Bastards? Robert Evans, yeah, where he says the only thing I've learned from history is that people never learn from history. It's really just like it's one battle after another. They just can't help themselves. The American Empire just can't stop, won't stop, got to go fast. And right at the moment, the Eye of Sauron is on America, on Venezuela, but it could just as easily be on Haiti or Panama. They wanted to take over the Panama Canal yesterday. They've forgotten about that, and then Epstein, and now current day. It's just wherever the Eye of Sauron is pointing, based on whatever right wing news reports make their way in bullet point form to Donald Trump's desk, is now the subject of his ire.
Whichever advisor has the largest font in the brief.
Yeah, whatever Stephen Miller's news diet is, basically ends up being the place that Trump wants to bomb next because damn immigrants. So it's incredibly
don't worry,
concerning.
They've got a strategy. Well, it'll be fine.
They have announced a strategy. I don't know if I could call this 30-page document a strategy per se. So Trump's,
it's a national security strategy.
Well,
that's what it says on the box.
What it says on the tin, but I don't know that one could really say that it characterizes the depth and consideration that might normally be attributed to the United States government national security strategy. In fact, it has been described by critics as a, quote, far-right pamphlet. Donald's doing zines now. So a new yeah, bring back the zines. Fuck yeah. I'm going to pick them up at Flinders Street Station while I get my latte. Fuck yeah.
No idea what you're talking about.
A zine is like a self-published small magazine handed out by people who don't have any money.
Often sort of, made and published by like underground leftist sort
espousing,
of movements.
Socialist or anarchist.
Essentially propaganda when you have no money.
Yeah.
I definitely have had people drop like religious pamphlets in my
it's like the opposite of that. So the strategy says that they've got a robust strategy for asserting dominance in the Western Hemisphere and cultivating resistance within Europe, whilst establishing, quote, strategic stability with Russia and accepting the Middle East and its leaders, quote, as they are. Come as you are, chop and journos. So it's great. It's all very good. I had the privilege of reading through some of this national security strategy to validate for myself whether the reporting on it was accurate. And boy, howdy, does Times reporting really undersell how fucking jingoistic and terrible this document is. And I think the reason that it's interesting to me is because it's not just Trump, tweeting madness from the shitter as his brain disintegrates. This is now United States government policy, right? And
I've been criticizing them for not having a strategy. At least they've put one together, but it's not. Still not.
Yeah, the finger on the monkey's paw curled when you said that, Adam.
You got to be careful what you wish for.
I need a strategy.
You got to be careful what you wish for because you just might get it. So there's been a number of shifts from. So I've done a bit of research. There's been a number of quite large shifts from previous national security strategies, which historically have been quite bipartisan. Very balanced, middle of the road type documents, which talk about, America's, position and the, within the sort of global north and how it hopes to influence events, but it's all done with a very passive voice. This one reads like a screed that you'd see on fucking Tucker Carlson's Twitter feed. So there's all the stuff that in there that you would expect around border security and migration, saying, quote, the era of mass migration is over, and characterizes it as an invasion, and that border control is the, quote, primary element of national security, and obviously talks about their theory of isolationism or non-interventionism, as they call it, which is hilarious when they're bombing random Venezuelan and maybe fishermen, who knows. Another central pillar is their reindustrialization, as exemplified in their tariff strategy, which we've talked about in the past, and energy dominance with relation to extractive fossil fuel industries like oil, gas, and nuclear. So there's nothing unexpected there. That's what you would expect out of a Trump administration. And obviously rejecting net zero and what that augurs for the health of humanity on the planet. Disastrous, but unsurprising, which is how I would characterize certainly the first Trump administration. Now, then the document shifts in its tenor. Talks a lot about, the document at a certain point, and this is probably when Stephen Miller's, edits show up on the Google Doc, really deviate pretty substantially after that part, and it starts talking about essentially culture war stuff. So there's a lot of inflammatory rhetoric, uses terms like weakness, extremism, and deadly failures in the previous administration, uses terms like woke lunacy and savage foreign gangs. It espouses a very much nativist, racist ideology, talking about civilizational erasure, that's a pull quote, in Europe due to migration, and describing migration as a tool to, quote, build up voting blocs loyal to foreign interests. Now, that explicitly alludes to what is known as replacement theory, which is something that Tucker Carlson has mentioned on his horrible show many times. Essentially, the false idea that left-leaning governments or parties encourage the migration from developing countries to their own for the purposes of getting their votes, and essentially erasing Western culture, white, heterogeneous, pure Aryan culture, which we must hang on to at all costs, Stephen Miller says, while gripping the sides of his deck chair so hard that his knuckles turned white. It explicitly talks about, an internal enemy that is using anti-Americanism to, quote, dissolve individual state sovereignty. It is a document that wholeheartedly buys the racist conspiracy theory of replacement theory and views anyone that does not agree with their far right perspective as enemies within. This is
wow, that's a double whammy. That's that's some Nazi playbook shit.
Yeah, and I hesitate to obviously, there's elements of this regime which resonate with fascism and elements which don't, but it's really hard to not draw the comparison between, I know it's tired at this point, but it's where else historically can, Francoist Spain? Can we look at, can we look at, Mussolini's Italy? Where else do you look for historical comparisons that don't kind of end up pointing at the Nazis when you're talking about this stuff? Vermin, a victimized, a particular group, a minority, community within our society that is dangerous and puts, I remember reading Jonathan Haidt's book, was it The Righteous Mind, which talks a lot about how people have natural personality predispositions on the sort of 5 matrices of personality development. I forget, but one of the key ones is openness. If you have a personality that is high in openness, you welcome other cultures, you're happy to try new things, you will inevitably probably be a leftist, right? So it talks about how your personality and your internal beliefs map to political ideology. And if you have low openness and you're not willing to try new things and you're scared of other things and other cultures, and fairness is about you and what happens to your in-group, and that's a very narrow view of what that in-group is, then you're much more likely to be a conservative, right? But this has taken that narrow, low openness ideology to an extreme which I do actually worry can only end in the kind of, murderous ideology that was best exemplified historically by the Nazis. So it's one thing when it's just Trump saying crazy shit and we can laugh at him and we go, it's incredible. Marco's talking and I can't fucking hear a thing. I'm dozing off. Ha ha ha. That's all very funny. But now it's Nazi rhetoric is in official government policy. And that crosses a kind of Rubicon for me. I was I don't know how to make jokes of this anymore. This is just getting scary now.
So what the document's specifically calling out here is that they're saying that European countries specifically,
And that was a big part of it as well, as aligning with Russia, basically.
Are going to be replaced by foreign immigrants, and that is a sort of a Kremlin talking point.
A lot of this stuff is Kremlin talking points. Essentially, you're talking about how Europe needs to fucking look after itself with its defense strategy. But it's like America is NATO. Like the whole reason NATO exists is because of America to provide a counterweight against Soviet Russia and their expansionist ideals. Like that's the whole reason NATO is America.
Hegseth, right? But they've been very open about the fact they don't really like NATO. Like Hegseth and JD Vance pretty much would pull out if they were given the opportunity.
If only you could say that about JD Vance's couch. Why can't I quit you?
Basically, what they're trying to revive here very openly is the Monroe Doctrine, but with an extra racist slant to it. So
talk about the Monroe Doctrine, where it comes from.
So the Monroe Doctrine was named after the President Monroe in 1823, where he basically said that Europe's going to look after their own shit. We're not going to get involved in Europe's shit. They can do whatever they want, but they can't come over. It was an anti-colonialist thing at the time. It was like Europe can't come over to the Americas and start keep colonizing things. I can't say colonizing. My brain's not working.
Colonizing. I don't know why.
Colonizing. Anyway. So Europe stays over there. We'll look after the Americans.
Now that we've colonized, no more colonization.
Yeah, literally, and that America would accept or respect the status quo, right, of Europe at the time, and that doctrine has basically grown and informed various parts of U.S. foreign policy since the 1820s. So it's America's excuse for overthrowing various South American governments because it's quote unquote their patch. It's the excuse they use when they didn't get involved in World War I and didn't get involved in World War II
until they were dragged kicking and screaming. Yeah.
And we've really only had, it's actually really only been the last 80 years where America, post World War II, sort of gave up on the Monroe Doctrine
and created
the
world order, as we understand, the rules-based multilateral.
But traditionally, if you want to look at things from a Russian perspective,
from which it has benefited immensely, becoming the global hegemon and economic superpower that it has become as a result of those.
And that's
that centrality to the global, sort of interconnectedness, right?
Financial system, power system, military system.
Dollars, the reserve currency.
This is the thing that the Republican MAGA movement don't understand. They've got this. They want to go back to this nativist movement, but they don't understand that the US. The reason why it is so powerful is because it abandoned the Monroe Doctrine.
Yeah. It's maybe the single most successful decision the Americans ever made was to make themselves the center of everything. And we can see that because, a good chunk of total capital that exists in the world is vested in the United States, primarily in the equity of 7 major internet companies, right? Most of the money that exists in America, right?
So, and this lines up with them canceling USAID and various other things, but it's
a whole isolationist strategy.
It's what they've been saying for the last 12 months and before with Project 2025, but it's now in a 30-page pamphlet as opposed to in the brains of Pete Hegseth and on various.
Sir, a second pamphlet has hit the Pentagon.
What's the app they use? It's not sitting in their Signal chats anymore. It's actually
chats.
And it's no longer in fist and fire and flag emojis. It's God damn it. If the whole world order descends into a Nazi wet dream over a fucking zine that Trump has produced.
This is Project 2025. Keep in mind, this is all.
Russ Vogt has got a permanent hard on. He needs to see his doctor. It's lasted for over 8 months at this point.
This has been cooking away in the MAGA base prior to the, the 2024 election. This, it's not this isn't Trump's idea.
No.
Trump is, and we'll talk about it in a second, he's articulating it in a very racist way. And
because he can't help himself. He just likes being a racist. He's not involved in the strategy of racism.
Right? No. He didn't far too dumb to put this together.
Anyway, so this is now official US security policy. And I guess the other thing is they want to pivot. And look, I will say one more thing. In 2010, whatever it was, Obama said we need to pivot to Asia.
Yeah, because, China's a rising power and they're the second largest global economy in the world, maybe the largest, depending on what metrics you look at. And it makes sense, for us to make sure that we've got a relationship with them, which is strategic, competitive, but also acknowledges that they make all of the stuff. And so we need to have, it's like strategic competition. They're kind of a frenemy. It's an important relationship that needs to be navigated if the US intends to retain its global supremacy, right?
And that is a very articulate way of putting it. This is kind of like
I did use the word frenemies, so I don't know how much credit I can take for that, but
I guess the difference we're saying here is that the Obama administration was sort of strategically saying that we're going to deprioritize Europe and focus on Asia. Yeah. That was prior to Ukraine and Crimea in 2014.
2014 is when that first kicked off.
Yeah. But it's the same concept to some extent that the US wants to focus on Asia in its own patch. But the extra mayonnaise, or it's not even mayonnaise, it's substance, the extra additions to the meat of this dish really change the context and ultimately will weaken the United States.
Why do you think it is? I mean, my sort of primary running theory is that Trump just wants to make a bunch of deals with Putin and the oligarchs in the UAE and Saudi Arabia and just wants to line his pockets. Let's make deals.
I don't think it's
Trump
money.
hotels on everything. Put some money into my fucking cryptocurrency fucking funds. Get Don Jr. as much cocaine as he wants. I really don't know
there's
what else it could
be. Family legacy and narcissism and this concept of the idolization of the strong man that he has.
It's just horny for strong men.
Yeah, he's extremely horny for strong men.
Just ask Bubba. Oh, you beat me to it, you son of a bitch.
Anyway, so that's the newest US security strategy, and that would also mean that they deprioritize Ukraine. Ukraine, we're going to talk about it now. Things aren't going well there, as it turns out.
Especially when you withdraw, the main means of support for the
Ukrainian there was a peace deal on the table. They put their peace deal on the table. They took it to the Russians, and the Russians went,
"Niet."
Yeah, it needs some work.
Wait, hang on. Which peace deal was this? I thought they took a peace deal and it was just it said written by Russia crossed out. The president of the United States.
They gave them their own talking points. And then Russia still went, no.
Honestly,
there was even reporting that Marco Rubio, someone was talking about the audit trail of the document, where they were saying it may have elements of it may have actually been authored by the Russian state.
Someone in the Kremlin.
It's not just like Russian talking points. It is potentially a Russian document, because someone was doing some analysis because some of the syntax is a bit strange in it. They sort of reverse engineered it. I forget who wrote this report. I would have included it if I thought to. But it was to do with the syntax, which suggested that it was written in Russian and then translated to English. And
I'm sure it would have been.
Yeah. That's what these
are Kremlin. They were Kremlin talking points.
Yeah, literally Kremlin talking points.
That sounds like really long, fancy way of digging it up. When really, I think they just forgot to turn off track changes. You always got to turn off track changes. And you export to PDF, and you get rid of the track changes. That's how you author American foreign policy. Yes. As a Kremlin official.
So. Basically, Russia has now decided that it's actually going pretty well on the battlefield and wants to try and press its gains to, I guess.
That's how that works.
Yeah, why settle when you're winning?
Also, it is the same thing they've done the last 3 times a peace plan's been taken to them, which is just stall. but then use the talking points in their own propaganda war at home.
They're just playing for time because that's what you do in a war of attrition.
Correct.
Yeah.
Play for time. Now, in terms of tracking the war, there are a number of organizations and websites that track the front line, battles, politics, things that happen.
It's a whole subculture on YouTube. Like there's whole channels dedicated to it.
And, I know George, I'm into it.
I know you're into it. No, I know. Like the whole reason I know this exists is primarily through you. Like every now and then I'll get a weird YouTube link. I'm like, hello, it's Vasily. I'm going to blow up Russian tank rounds in this fucking... I was like, oh, there's this whole subculture of like military guys that I had no fucking clue about. But yeah, it's not just commentators on the war, but like commentators on tactics and the latest development. Like I look at like backpacks and gaming handhelds, so I feel as though our algorithms are severely different.
I also get the backpacks, but like,
you do.
Like, you need to survive the war. This is the backpack.
Different backpack.
Yeah, different backpack. Yeah.
So I got the Air City Pack Pro 2 in X-Pack, so absolutely, it's waterproof zippers, YKK. So it's got the padded straps. And it's got an internal little luggage pass-through as well. So I'm sorted for all my backpack needs, I say again for the 50th time as I place the backpack on top of a pile of other backpacks.
One of those websites, which I follow fairly closely, is the Institute for the Study of War.
Which is meant to be the gold
ISW.
standard, right?
Yeah. They are basically an American think tank, but one that, as far as I'm aware, is fairly...
It's meant to be prized
apolitical.
For objectivity.
Fairly apolitical. Yeah. Now, also in the world, we have gambling websites.
Yeah, well...
And when you've got a war and you've got a gambling website, what are you going to do?
Oh, they're going to sit down and realize maybe it's in extremely poor taste for us to place wagers on the outcomes of such life or death situations. You know what? We listened, we learned, and we acted.
No, Tom, that's what I've done is I've
is that not what happened?
What I've done is I've put a 3-way multi on the lives of innocent people. So, yeah.
You did it. You blew it all up.
So
George, tell me about Polymarket.
Yeah, so Polymarket is something that we've referred to on the show before. These are what are referred to as prediction markets. But yeah, as Adam is essentially right, they're essentially gambling markets for real world events. Now, typically they focus on, banal things that one would expect, like sports betting and the outcome of American electoral politics and things like that, which even that's like getting a bit squishy.
Banal, totally banal.
A bit weird for me, but like, sure, I guess if you want to vote on America versus Kamala with your dollars, then rather than with your votes, then so be it, I suppose. I see that as being relatively as harmless as sports betting already is, which is to say quite harmful. I'm actually vociferously opposed to gambling in all of its forms. I think it is an industry that preys on the misery of other people. But much like Pete Hegseth's second Passover of the Venezuelan boat, if the first one was a war crime, the second one's a double war crime. And that is what has been occurring with regard to the maps generated by the ISW, which are now providing fodder for prediction markets like Polymarket, for people to bet on the outcome of whatever it is, potential armed conflict, specifically in this case between Russia and Ukraine. Now, earlier,
right, they're gambling over what territory is going to be surrendered in the peace deal or whatever.
Yeah,
great.
I really thought 2025 would be like flying cars and like, not betting on the murder of innocent civilians and making money off it. It does seem like the most cynical deployment of capital that I can think of.
Yeah, George. Yeah.
But I'm sure I'm not thinking hard enough. Yeah. I'm sure there's worse ones.
We didn't get flying cars. We've got betting on the outcomes of war, and AI slop means we can't trust our eyes and ears anymore. But it's going great.
It's good stuff. The 21st century is definitely my favorite century this century. So one of the bets that came to fruition in November 15th of this year was related to a live map, which was created and maintained by the ISW, which tracks the front line of the war in Ukraine. And there's so basically the way these prediction markets work is they say, okay, we're going to bet on this outcome as validated by this whatever third party. If the city of Myronrad, whatever it's called, in Ukraine is captured by the middle of November, as dictated by this map, the ISW map, then some people are going to make money, some people are going to lose money, right?
Yeah.
Now, interestingly, according to the map that Polymarket relies on, the Russians allegedly secured the town just before 10:48 p.m. on November 15th, when the bet was supposed to, the first round of betting on this outcome was supposed to be resolved. The bet resolves at midnight, and then, mysteriously, on the ISW website, the map was then edited again, and the Russian advance vanished. So, presumably, someone, and we've just gone a level darker than betting on armed conflict, one level below, further down into the hellscape. What's the song that plays when they're trying to initiate the kick in Inception? Le'Veon Rose starts playing. Yeah. We're going all the way down to the subconscious. So what happened is presumably what happened is someone is manipulating the data on the ISW to give themselves an edge on the prediction markets, which are predicated on. Wow. Well, so what the ISW has said is that, so the quote is that ISW acknowledged the stealth edit, but did not say if it was made because of the betting markets. Quote, it has come to ISW's attention that an unauthorized and unapproved edit to the interactive map of Russia's invasion of Ukraine was made on the night of November 15th. The unauthorized edit was removed before the day's normal window began on November 16 and did not affect ISW mapping on that or any subsequent day. The edit did not form any part of the assessment of authorized map changes on that or any other day. We apologize to our readers and the users of our maps for this incident, they said in a statement on their website. So that suggests to me that they're implying that someone hacked the map,
a malicious actor.
Potentially it was an inside job. Someone inside the ISW had a bet going and decided to.
I have another reading of this.
Decided to pay his own bet. Like, surely all of that stuff would be auditable and traceable as to who accessed the map, where, and when, and like only a certain amount of people would be authorized to edit that map, right? Like, it's a pretty
ISW is not a particularly large organization. I think what's actually probably happened here is either one, it's a hack, or secondly, and probably more likely, because these maps do change regularly. Like, to say that the maps are, and they go back and forth.
But it represented a Russian advance that didn't exist and then disappeared immediately after the bet resolved.
It's not the first time it's happened. It's not like... So this is the way they gather their information is it's open source. So they don't have access to any classified information. They are getting information from government sources. They're getting it from open source satellite imagery. They're getting it from news reporting, and they're getting it from first-hand accounts. So basically vlogs. It's
like a Bellingcat. It's like open source reporting sort of thing.
Correct. Now, quite often one of the sources they rely on is Russian vloggers. Russian vloggers are an interesting
So you're saying Vladimir Putin had a flutter on his own war and decided to...
Well, some of these Russian vloggers...
Feed some misinformation to tip the bet?
Some of these Russian vloggers... The biases depend on the source.
Are cutouts of the Russian state. You can say it. No one's going to hold it against you, Adam.
Well, maybe cutouts, but also like there are people that are just really pro-Russia, and there are
biased.
People that have their biases. So what can quite often happen is one vlogger might post something up with credibles, and because the vloggers also have sources on the ground. So the vloggers will have soldiers who they're signal chatting or telegramming,
texting,
right? Texting basically, and those the sources on the ground, the soldiers, are leaking information to the vloggers, and the vloggers are then putting it on the internet, and then that is what's being used as part of the data sources for ISW.
Can I just say, easy to see. I'm so exhausted with this century. Can I just wake me up when the new World War III hits?
It's kind of like, like in World War I and World War II, right? Like you couldn't, like your letters were censored when you wrote stuff back. like you couldn't say things, right? We only about operational matters.
Yeah. You'd have the letters would arrive back home and they'd be redacted. This is American.
And obviously,
American
if you can capture a mail truck, or if you can capture a mail ship,
it's like intelligence.
Yeah. Anyway, there's not really any of that happening. People are just, even the Russians who are trying to, like the Russians have terrible OPSEC, and they're known to have terrible OPSEC, despite killing people. Despite killing people. Anyway, the point being is, it would not be unlikely to me that the manipulation is actually, and this is me just this is me thinking, right? Not actually a fact.
In this man's opinion.
It's not so much the map that's been hacked or whatever, but a source has come through and said, we've pushed all this way into
the underlying source material is compromised. But if that's
correct,
if that's the case,
what's happened?
The ISW why would they say
someone's
an
made
unauthorized and unapproved edit?
Well, someone's made a map edit. I'm assuming they only make their map edits with like a peer review, right? Like they would do it any reporting journalistic. It has to go through the editor, right? I'm thinking that maybe someone's made a map edit without getting their sources checked, or they've been hacked. It's the other option.
I think my point being is likely that a hack has happened. For like someone discovered a vulnerability on the ISW website and thought, I can see a bet is closing soon. I'm going to switch it so it looks like there's a Russian advance, make a stack of money, and then yeet the fuck out of there, right?
I mean, if you're going to be gambling on the outcome of a war, like, cheat.
It's best to know the outcome.
I guess, like...
As Frank Underwood said, if the chess table is not set up to your liking, turn over the table and make a stack of money on prediction markets.
Yeah.
But it is the way sites like ISW get their information is fascinating. So it's able to be compromised at different levels, I guess is my point. But it is also the most closest you're able to track an ongoing conflict from the public's perspective. The closest we've been able to do that in conflict's history.
Yeah, and I mean, like this most accurately, unlike Pete Hegseth, accurately represents the problem of fog of war, right? Especially when you've got a number of different sources all contributing a bunch of confusing, disparate, sometimes contradictory information at the same time.
So the Russians often say, we've captured a town, but it's like, you haven't actually captured a town. You've got maybe like 5 or 6 elements, maybe in and around the town, but like Ukraine's also got 5 or 6 elements, in an area. So it's what's ISW's generally been pretty good at is taking the breadth of information and distilling out what's a credible. They normally when they normally adjust the map is when they've got footage. They'll adjust the map if they can see, and they'll geolocate it. They'll go, right, this is this corner of this town, and we can see a Russian guy has got a camera, and he's got 3 other guys around him. We're going to say that the Russians have got
analyze the metadata
access.
or whatever. And,
I don't know.
Can we just take a step back though and just talk about how fucking ghoulish all of this is? Like,
it's
just what a terrible century to be alive, honestly.
Oh yeah, but the thing I'm thinking here is that it's sort of like, I don't know. So who's pissed off in this story? The people who are pissed off are the people gambling on a war who lost their bets because someone cheated, and I don't feel sorry for those people.
I guess not. I don't know. Yeah, everyone in this story is the worst.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. You're gambling on the outcome of a very real war. Wasn't fair. Oh, boo-hoo. Like, fuck these people.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Like, yeah, okay, great. Oh, I'm so sorry. You lost all your Bitcoin, you ghoul.
I feel bad. I feel bad for us as a polity, as the public.
As a world,
this is what we've become. Is just everything. I was drafting an article a little while ago, which I didn't end up publishing, which was the title of which was "Everything is Gambling," basically. And the thrust of it is just entire sectors of our economy now just revolve around gambling, sports betting, prediction markets, the stock market, cryptocurrency. All of it essentially is just a graph of people's feelings, and we're betting up or down on the outcome, right? It's just
exploiting people's addiction.
And it reflects a certain ghoulish shallowness to our culture, which I find repulsive. Anyway, this is not great comedy content. Let's move on. Trump said racist things. Way.
Hilarious.
Waka waka. So Donald Trump, in addition to being explicitly nativist in his policy, is also being expressly racist in his commentary with regard to Somalis. And so, much to my chagrin, I will be playing Donald Trump's voice yet again on this podcast.
Somalians ripped off that state for billions of dollars.
He's talking about Minnesota.
Billions. Every year. Billions of dollars. And they contribute nothing. The welfare is like 88%. They contribute nothing. I don't want them in our country, I'll be honest with you, okay? Somebody say, oh, that's not politically correct. I don't care. I don't want them in our country. Their country is no good for a reason. Their country stinks, and we don't want them in our country. I can say that about other countries, too. We don't want them to hell. We have to rebuild our country. You know, our country's at a tipping point. We could go bad. We're at a tipping point. I don't know if people mind me saying that, but I'm saying it. We could go one way or the other, and we're going to go the wrong way if we keep taking in garbage into our country. Ilhan Omar is garbage. She's garbage. Her friends are garbage. These aren't people that work. These aren't people that say, let's go, come on, let's make this place great. These are people that do nothing but complain. They complain. And from where they came from, they got nothing. You know, they came from paradise, and they said, this isn't paradise. But when they come from hell, and they complain, and do nothing but bitch, we don't want them in our country. Let them go back to where they came from and fix it.
I just realized what it is. Okay, so like when I first heard him say these, I think I messaged you guys saying, okay, this is the one that should be in the history books just because of how vile that rhetoric is.
Just wait.
But it's just hit me a second time, now hearing it again, I think why it's so chilling. And it's because it's the most coherent, not clearly being read off a teleprompter thing I think I've ever heard Trump say.
It's his honest racist feelings, yeah.
Yeah, he's like, that's not him brain farting like he normally does. That was a continuous thought.
Yes, yeah, all the way through. He made it through a whole thought.
Digestible, understandable thought.
Yes.
And it's when he is calling people from other countries garbage. And the migrants of those countries in his country, garbage.
Well, don't worry, it gets worse. Here's follow-up. Trump doubles down on his comments about Ilhan Omar's a Somali recipient of asylum. She emigrated when she was in her teens, and now she's a congressperson from Minnesota, and is very leftist and very anti-Trump. And guess what? He doesn't like so many things about her as a result.
Mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Frey, is saying that he's actually proud to have the largest Somali community in the country, and his police chief...
Well, then he's a fool.
Well, his police chief is also saying...
I wouldn't be proud to have the largest Somalian. Look at their nation. Look how bad their nation is. It's not even a nation. It's just people walking around killing each other. Look, these Somalians have taken billions of dollars out of our country. They've taken billions and billions of dollars. They have a representative, Ilhan Omar, who they say married her brother.
I shouldn't have to say this, but like, obviously it's not real. That's not true. That's been debunked many, many times.
It's a fraud. She tries to deny it now, but you can't really deny it because, it just happened.
Again, it didn't happen.
She shouldn't be allowed to be a congresswoman, and I'm sure people are looking at that. And she should be thrown the hell out of our country. And most of those people, they have destroyed Minnesota, okay? Minnesota, you have an incompetent governor. You have a crooked governor. He's crooked as hell, but he's incompetent. Walz he should be ashamed. That beautiful land, that beautiful state, it's a hellhole right now. And the Somalians should be out of here. They've destroyed our country. And all they do is complain, complain, complain. You have her. She's always talking about the Constitution provides me with Go back to your own country and figure out your constitution. All she does is complain about this country. Without this country, she would not be in very good shape. She probably wouldn't be alive right now. So Somalia is considered by many to be the worst country on earth. I don't know. I haven't been there. I won't be there anytime soon. I hope. But what Somalia, what the Somalian people have done to Minnesota is not even believable. It's not even believable. And a lot of it starts with the governor. A lot of it starts with Barack Hussein Obama, because that's when people started coming in. And you have to have people come in that are going to love our country, cherish our country. They want to kiss our country goodnight. They talk about our country. We want them to pray for our country. This is not the people living in Minnesota. And she's a disaster. She should not be, and her friends shouldn't be allowed. Frankly, they shouldn't even be allowed to be congresspeople, okay? They shouldn't even be allowed to be congresspeople because they don't represent the interests of our country.
Yeah, again, a coherent thought from him.
Well, as close as one would expect out of Donald Trump.
Like
whilst he's
follow,
sundowning during fucking cabinet meetings. But yes,
you can follow.
That's when he really brightens up.
Yeah, like it seems like he is absolutely losing his cognition until he is saying the most racist, vile, fascist shit you've ever heard.
It's so funny how the New York Times reported on it as well. It's like, in what many have described as a shocking example of Trump's open xenophobia. I was like, just say racist. It's okay, New York Times. When Donald Trump talks about Somalis are bad and Ilhan Omar's bad and Barack Hussein Obama's bad, it's like, what's the commonality there? He's just a fucking racist piece of shit. You can just say racist, New York Times. I don't know why we have to tap dance around it, saying what many are describing as openly. You can say what the New York Times is describing as incredibly fucking racist comments. Get out of the passive voice. Get into some verbs and fucking stake a claim in the ground. I hate this fucking equivocation in reporting. It drives me absolutely nuts. You can just say, call a fucking racist a racist. Go back to your own country. She comes from hellhole. She married her brother. Like, it's the disgusting litany of lies out of this.
What's even happened in Minnesota that he's talking about? Like, I don't even.
I don't know. There's just a large Somali community. Again, Somali, not Somalian. A large Somali community in Minnesota that are living there under temporary protected status, which I think he said he's going to rescind, along with the Haitian community. And they're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs, whatever that whole fucking situation was. So it's just like an openly racist, xenophobic, shitty thing that the president of the United States has said about a really substantial minority in their country for the purposes of doing nothing except spreading hate. And, the fact that the thing that's really concerning to me there is he said it twice in both clips. He said she shouldn't be allowed to be a congressperson. So now people who are political enemies of me, Donald Trump, are going to be denaturalized, thrown out of the country. Like this, I hate to be that this is how it happens, guy, but like, this is how it happens, guys, right? You start, jailing your political enemies or throwing them out of the country, or like, this is the fascist stuff. I need you guys to fucking pick up a book because this is the thing happening.
Especially when it's just on the basis of they're not white.
Yeah, or they don't agree with me, or both. Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's her, and then he goes, her friends. I guess he's talking about the squad there, people like Alexander.
The squad, that's what I was trying to remember.
Cortez,
I was like,
so,
Congresswoman Omar's one of the like four. There's 4 Congress people
who are sort of vocal progressives that speak out against Donald Trump on a regular basis, and he's just saying that all of them should be denaturalized. I guess some American citizens in there, but it's bad.
Yeah,
I don't know if we can get some jokey jokes out of that, but. This beat,
there's nothing funny about it.
This beat is just becoming a worse and worse beat as time goes on. It used to be like a Donald Trump.
You keep posting American stories up in the chat.
I don't know what to do.
Something else.
I just gotta, what else are we gonna? Oh, Pauline Hanson wore a burqa again. That was terrible. It's like, well, what's What other story?
Barnaby Joyce has officially joined One Nation.
Great.
Hang on, that's meant to be an uplifting story in this hellhole.
Just
something different. Okay, just something different.
Yeah, and that is true. I don't know if it's less terrible.
Anyway, do you want to speak about the 412? Was it prosecutions under since Roe versus Wade was overturned?
I don't think I do. I think I might have taken the energy.
I don't want to talk about it.
I think the energy of the show. Yeah, no, I did post it, and it's my own fault. Let's just to give you a summary. Roe versus Wade was overturned in 2022, and it sounds like there's now a litany of women who have had either failed pregnancies or miscarriages who are being actively prosecuted for the crime of not giving birth to a live baby. And my wife is watching The Handmaid's Tale at the moment, and it's hard not to see the parallels. So more than 400 cases have taken place over the last couple of years, accusing people of crimes related to their pregnancies. And it's bad. If you want to have a really sad time, we'll post the article in the show notes. But I just have not the strength to really commit to going through this in any depth anymore at this point. I just want to go to sleep. Last story. Let's finish on a high.
Forever.
Maybe
forever.
Yeah, maybe a forever sleep. A little dirt nap wouldn't go astray.
Finish on a high. Cinema might be dead.
Yeah, as our senior cinema might be dead correspondent, Tom, can you take the lead on this one, please?
Yeah, certainly. So there's been rumblings for a while of who was going to buy Warner Brothers, because Warner Brothers was looking to be poached.
Initially they were like fending off offers, but I guess the idea that there were offers coming in gave people the idea that they would potentially be open to offers. Which is the most Hollywood. That's the most Hollywood thing I've ever heard. It's like, someone's trying to buy Warner Brothers and they don't want to be bought. That must mean they're a really good buy.
They just neg them into being bought. So that came to a head this week because Netflix was announced as sort of being I thought initially just as the front runner, but then I got an email from Netflix saying, "Hey everyone, we're buying Warner Brothers."
It happened.
I was like,
we did it.
Through then, I guess you're pretty confident.
We own all of media. So we.
Yes. So yeah, they're spending. This has been, I think, adjusted into Australian dollary dues, but 108.5 billion Australian dollars. That's what, like 80 something US billion, roundabout.
So 50 or 60, something like that.
Okay. So for a shit ton of money, Netflix is gonna own Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers owns actually a lot of stuff. A very abridged list. But HBO, Harry Potter, the DC universes, both video games, movies.
It's a lot of stuff. Discovery Channel, all that sort of stuff.
Discovery Channel.
All the cable networks and
all the cable networks, the Looney
internet
Tunes.
Providers. Does that include the internet providers they own?
Comcast and stuff. I don't know if those are owned by Warner Brothers. I don't think so.
Not sure at that point, but so it's certainly ruffled some feathers. This article from the ABC quotes James Cameron calling it a disaster. I believe
because he wants people to go to the movies to see his latest Avatar flop. It's just it's such a flog for these weird blue people.
I love flop. Do you know how much money they're making?
Well, artistic flop, commercial success.
But yes, he wants people to be going to the cinema, which a lot of filmmakers do because, we don't have time to get into it now, but, slowly over the past few decades, as streaming has becoming more and more of a thing.
Especially since
obviously, especially since the pandemic, because the pandemic prevented people going to the cinema. So suddenly, some studios decided to pivot to, okay, we'll put our film out on streaming just to not lose out on the money. Probably a lot of these streamers took up those deals to be like, ooh, yoink. And Warner Brothers being one because they had their HBO Max and all that sort of stuff. Like if you have your own streamer, the money of subscriptions still goes into your pocket. So they did a fair bit of that as well. But that ruffled feathers at the time. Like, the likes of Christopher Nolan, I believe, was a really big example because Tenet was coming out in 2020 and then COVID kicked off and they didn't get a cinema release. And so they put it on streaming. I think it was Max. And he was not very happy about that at all. I think to the point where Oppenheimer was not produced by Warner Brothers. Like, he put his money where his mouth is and says, fuck you people, I'm going to make my next big, eventually Oscar winner with another studio. So it really matters to these filmmakers.
In all fairness, I don't know if Tenet's lack of commercial success was necessarily due to a lack of
I watched it in the cinema on re-release, and it was still just as confusing and hard.
Yeah. I think Tenet's failures were many, but this was just the example. But so obviously a company like Netflix, though, yes, they produce movies all the time, right? They produce movies, they produce TV shows, all that sort of stuff, and they use them as draws for their subscription model. But they have released films in the cinemas before,
but only really for the purposes of getting in for awards,
Oscar eligibility and stuff, right? Yeah, because and even if they do, it's a short run. Like their recent film, like Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, I think had 2 weeks in the cinema, and then it was on Netflix. All that sort of stuff. Like they do just these like little releases. So
how are you going to do Guillermo dirty like that? The man's a genius. How dare you?
Yeah. So
straight to video for fucking Guillermo del Toro. Get fucked.
Yeah. So filmmakers are very not happy about this, and I mean, people are being, facetious, a bit spurious in the doom and gloom of it all, being like, I guess cinema's dead. But I think like the concern is very much there that when a lot of the we're getting more and more monopolized. It's not a monopoly yet because fucking Disney still exists.
But there's only like
Netflix and
there's
stuff
like 5
like
players now. There's like
3 or 4 or something.
Paramount, there's Disney, Netflix, like a handful of others, But I don't think those concerns about Netflix wanting to dominate, streaming at the expense of cinema going, I don't think those concerns are not well founded, because Ted Sarandos, the Netflix co-CEO, has been on the record as saying that the era of moviegoers flocking to theaters is over. Like that is a pull quote from the guy who just bought one of the largest movie studios. You know what I mean? Like,
of course he says that. He sells not going to the movies.
Not going to the movies and staying in your home. And their largest competitor, according to him, is sleep.
Guys, look, you're looking at this the wrong way. Won't someone think of the shareholders?
Someone think of the shareholders. There was so much equity out of all of the look at the equity transfer. It's incredible.
Yeah, that's true. All these shareholders have just lost a shit ton of money betting on the Ukraine war, and they got to make up that shortfall somehow.
Daddy's feeling lucky.
But look, for me, I've been saying that there needs to be less streaming services and a consolidation.
I know.
To a few.
That was my thought as well. I was like, wait, so you mean I can just have okay, so now maybe only remember the good old days when you just kind of needed one because it had
maybe two or three, right?
All the shit that you really wanted. Not like this. This is what I wanted. The monkey paw curled again.
The HBO, it's annoying because it only launched in region 6 months ago. And to my mind, at least on its initial launch pricing, is probably one of the better value streaming services, which has all of the content I want, which is HBO.
It's how they always get you.
Yeah, right? I know. And then they jack up the prices over time.
It's $10 a month.
Yeah, I know that.
5 years later, it's $40.
But it is, it's just to have to go back to a Netflix subscription, which is whatever, it's $21 a month without ads. And then, you also can't share subscriptions like you can with some of the other streaming services who don't who don't monitor that. So it's just okay, so we're just back to Netflix again. And they just keep cranking up the prices again and again over time because they don't have subscriber growth and they need to keep growing their revenue, so number go up. And it's just all the market analysts talked about this when all of these different companies like Paramount and HBO were launching all of their own streaming services and sort of breaking off into their own silos. all of the analysts are saying, well, there's going to be consolidation at some point, to you get back to a stage where you're either aggregating under one umbrella, or you've got like a cable bundle where you essentially subscribe to a bunch of different services for one price under the one umbrella, and you're just recreating cable at that point.
Yeah,
but,
right.
So it's not something that's a surprise, but it's disappointing because, like, I don't want to watch 99% of the stuff that seems to be on Netflix. And now, in order to watch, aside from maybe Stranger Things, which is like 5 years between seasons, but like in order to get, to go and watch my fucking HBO crime dramas, I have to subscribe to Netflix and get all this other shit that I don't want in there, bundled in there. And it's just like, I just wanted my HBO stuff. That's the good stuff. That's the only stuff I wanted. I didn't want all this other stuff, but now I'm going to pay 3 times the fucking price in order to get it.
Yeah.
That sucks,
I don't know.
man.
I also just think it's wild that, they say, streaming is what's going to kill people going to the cinema. No, you know what's really going to kill people going to the cinema? People. Have you sat in a cinema with other people recently?
Yeah.
They're animals. They've forgotten how to watch a movie in the cinema. They're on their bright phones all the time. They're talking.
Oh, the phones in the cinemas,
like,
that drives me fucking nuts.
Like,
I just feel like saying,
just
fucking go home and sit on your couch and look at your phone on your own couch. Why do you have to be in the cinema? This bright fucking OLED, Samsung S25, 800 nits of brightness, and just blasting away the fucking retinas in the cinema.
You just all the pixels in the world in your face.
So many pixels
on the screen.
No, as Jean-Paul Sartre once said, Tom, hell is in fact other people. I could not agree more. But I like going to the cinema alone in the middle of the day.
I love going to the cinema.
But there's no one around.
I love going to the cinema. I just wish that people would remember how.
I just, I have had good cinema, like I remember when I watched Endgame Part 2, the Marvel movie, and it was just like this massive, the roar of the crowd when everyone gets brought back to life and all everyone's favorite characters come back, and it was people losing their mind and cheering and clapping. It's like, man, that was a crazy fun experience. Like, I love that. I miss that. And there's just not anything like that anymore. And maybe we're just like past that, but I loved the whole thing of going to a cinema and you turn your phone off, and it's like, now I'm like half looking at my phone as I look at like some piece of art that I'm like 30% registering. It's like, if it had my undivided attention, I probably would. Maybe this is just an ADHD thing. Maybe it's, I don't know. But like, I don't know. I just feel like, Scorsese fucking masterpieces weren't meant to be viewed on my, 65-inch television screen. They're meant to be fucking made in a cinema and not listened to on George, AirPods. They're meant to be with a fucking full surround sound system.
No, they were meant to be viewed on your phone with the little camera island cutout while you're taking a shit.
Yeah, picture in picture as you're also texting. That's the way true art is meant to be consumed.
Yeah. That's the way Scorsese intended it.
Yeah. On that note, as God has intended us, this podcast has been Unnatural Selection. Make sure you visit us at our salubrious home on the web, unnaturalshow.com, the hosting for which is up for renewal. I emailed you guys. Make sure you follow us on all the bullshit social medias that are ruining the world, that have, do, or ever will exist, at our handle at Unnatural Show. That's Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and wherever the fuck else you freaks are. Make sure you follow me on Twitter and Instagram at George Tsipos.
You can follow me on Threads at tom.heath.
And you can follow me down to the Polymarket betting accounts for the deals surrounding Netflix and Warner Brothers, because I'm sure there's some interesting side bets happening down there.
What are the odds on that? Can I do a 3-way multi on that?
You could definitely do a 3-way multi, my friend.
Oh, nice. I'm back into it now. Thanks for listening, guys. Love your faces. We'll see you next week.